Hi everybody, Seth Stearns with Excel Management Systems coming to you from my home office. You know, over the past couple of weeks, we've been working with you, our customers, to enable a work from home model. We tried to be sure that we had all the technology in place, the VPNs, the hardware, everything that is needed to facilitate effectively working from home on the part of your teams. Now that we're sort of, that part is stabilized, now what we're hearing from you, our customers, but also this is a common challenge right now across the industry. The question is, how do we now effectively manage our remote workforce? Many managers have never done this before. They've never had to manage a remote workforce. And you know, managing effective teams is difficult when things are normal, when it's business as usual. And now we have this added challenge of how do we effectively manage a team when the team is remote? So we think there are three real key factors in terms of effectively managing a remote team. First is self-awareness as a manager. Secondly, empathy, understanding what our team members are going through during this time. And third is the willingness to put ourselves through a really significant shift of mindset about what it means to be a manager managing a remote team versus a team that is in place in the office. So when we talk about self-awareness as a manager, when it comes to managing a remote team, there's three questions that we think are really important that managers ask themselves. First question, how much do I trust my team? We have heard amazing stories of the extent, the length to which organizations are going, trying to be sure to micromanage their team remotely. They are absolutely terrified that the teams are not going to be performing, that people are not going to do their jobs, that they're going to take this opportunity to not work, just be home, and I don't know what they think they're going to be doing. So as a manager, it's really important that we become clear, how much do I trust my team? That's number one. Number two, as a manager, do I manage to activities or do I manage towards goals and deliverables? Again, do I manage activities? Am I trying to manage my team's activities, or am I trying to manage the goals and deliverables my team are accountable for? And thirdly, as a manager, do I communicate enough, and do I communicate the right things to my team? So this is a wonderful period to do some self-assessment as a manager around those three things. A, do I trust my team? B, am I managing to activities or am I managing towards goals and deliverables? Third, am I communicating enough and am I communicating the right things? During this period right now, as managers, it will be very, very important as we effectively manage our remote teams that we practice and demonstrate a very high level of empathy. Keeping in mind that our team members are working from home and they're sharing a space with their spouse, their partner, their roommate. They're sharing this space 24 hours a day right now. And they're also sharing bandwidth. And we have to keep that in mind on a very practical basis. And for those team members who live by themselves, they're at very high risk to feel isolated and to feel a heightened sense of loneliness during this period. And our team members who are parents, they're working hard to balance their workload while also trying to manage the microscopic attention span of their children. It's very, very important that we keep these things in mind during this period. And it's one of our key challenges as a manager. Yes, there are goals and deliverables we have to get to, but we really need to be sensitive to what all of us are going through as we attempt to balance our social and personal lives and our work lives, because they are no longer separated. They are completely merged at this point. So those are the challenges that are before us as managers. We now have to figure out, how do we effectively manage our teams that are now remote? And we didn't have any time to think about this. We didn't have any time to figure this out. It all happened really, really quickly. Well, we've been doing a lot of thinking about this. We've been doing a lot of reading about it. We've been talking a lot about it internally. And what we've kind of boiled it all down. We've got 5 tips that we want to share with you that we think are going to make you highly effective at managing your new remote team. So, tip number 1, and probably the most important, trust your team. Trust that they're going to continue to be accountable and that they're going to continue to do good work. We have witnessed multiple organizations going to great lengths, reminding teams that they need to be working, they need to be in front of their laptops, they need to be online, they have to check in, they've got to fill out a time log, they've got to account for every minute of every day. That type of management, that type of micro time management sends a very clear message that the organization does not trust the employees. And I'm here to tell you, it's not only vital, but it's valid to trust our team members, the vast majority of whom really want to do good work. Now, if you've got a team member that has demonstrated before all this happened that they are not trustworthy, then that's a whole nother issue that needs to be dealt with, and it needs to be dealt with soon. But that's separate from now. The other issue is be assessing your own capacity to trust your team. Maybe your team has constantly demonstrated their trustworthiness to do good work, but for some reason you feel compelled to do certain things and to say certain things, behave certain way as a manager that would communicate to them that you don't trust them. You need to self-assess what that issue is and fix it soon. Now, one way to demonstrate trust and good health right now, good mental health right now, encourage your team members to take breaks. Encourage them to go for a walk throughout the day. We're inside all day long. We're sitting and looking at that laptop or PC all day long. Encourage them to go take breaks. Go pet the dog, go walk the dog, go outside. That type of encouragement sends a very clear message that you do indeed trust them and you care about their mental health. Tip 2, over-communicate. Now, let's talk a little bit about what we're communicating about. First, touch base regularly with your team members one-on-one. Check in with them about how they're doing through all of this. This is not a meeting about tasks. This isn't a meeting about deliverables. This is a meeting about asking and getting the question answered. How are you doing right now? It's critical and really vital that our team members know that we generally care about them and we want to make sure that they are okay through this period. The second thing we need to communicate is to be sure that we all stay aligned with the mission, the goals, the priorities of the organization. When we're all working in the office, this is pretty easy and it kind of happens almost naturally. But we're working remotely now. And so this can be lost and it can be diluted. So take this as an opportunity to always be communicating, again, what's our mission right now? What are our priorities? What are our goals? This keeps everybody aligned to those. Also recommend that we schedule consistent and regular one-on-ones as well as team meetings using all the tools that are available to us to do that. Those meetings are really important, and it's important that the team still feels a sense of team, but it's also important that you have that opportunity to connect with each team member individually. And the last thing I want to point out here is don't lose sight of continuing to celebrate work anniversaries and birthdays. Those are really big landmarks. Those are important things, and they ought not be lost during this period, but they ought to be accentuated. So over-communicate about the various things we talked about. How are you doing? What are the goals, the mission, the priorities of the organization? Birthdays and anniversaries. And then the one-on-ones and the team meetings. Tip number 3, make sure your team has all the tools they need. All the tools, that's hardware, VPNs. Make sure that they're able to set up in a work environment that hopefully is conducive to getting some work done, but make sure they have the tools. So there's the hardware aspect, and then there's the software aspect. So there's lots of tools out there that can be used and are used effectively by people who work remotely. Slack as an example. Microsoft Teams. We love Microsoft Teams. Zoom as an example. WebEx, whatever those tools are, make sure that they have those tools. And the other thing I want to mention here, be sure they know how to use them. And as a manager, it's on you to make sure that they know how to use those. It's on you to be sure that you are proficient at using those tools, because you're going to be the first person they're going to come to if they have any issues. So make sure they know they have the right tools. Make sure they know how to use them. Here's tip number 4. And this one is a tough one. This can be a tough one for a lot of managers to get their heads around. Here's the tip. Move away from focusing on activities, but measure on deliverables, goals, tasks, and deadlines. This is a really important one. So as you're communicating with your team members, be crystal clear. What are the tasks that are required? What are the goals that need to be achieved? What are the deadlines? What are the deliverables? What are you going to be delivering, and when are you going to deliver it? And every one of your team members should know and be with absolute clarity what those are. Don't waste time trying to focus and manage 2 activities. Activities are only a means to achieve the goal. The only thing as managers we should be focused on, the tasks, the goals, the deliverables, and the deadlines. If you do that, again, your team is going to be very, very clear about what they need to achieve. And they'll deliver on those. But you both need to be well aligned, and you both have to be absolutely clear about what those are. Tip number 5. Work closely with your team and each individual on your team to understand and establish what the ground rules are during this period. Now, what do I mean by ground rules? As an example, what's the expectation in terms of when we can expect an email to be responded to? So everybody has the same expectation. If I get an email, I need to respond to that email within whatever the number is, 12 hours, 8 hours, 6 hours. It depends on your business, it depends on what's going on your particular team. But set that expectation. That's what the response time that we are expecting and need during this period. Secondly, work with each team member about what their schedule looks like. Keep in mind, this is completely unusual for all of us. And again, for those of us who are parents, who have kids and children at home, our most productive focused time may not be till beginning at 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night. And that's just how it is. So we need to negotiate this. We need to be really clear about what's going to work for everyone. Now you may need a non-negotiable for you, maybe a time frame where I need all team members online during this time period so that we can work closely together and we can communicate and stay connected. But do that while you're negotiating and understanding each situation of each of your team members. These are crazy times right now. The 8 to 5. The 8 to 5 approach to work, it's not happening. It's just not going to happen. So be clear about that. Let go of that and begin to negotiate with your team members about what's going to work. Be checking too with, generally speaking, when will you be online? What's your time frame? Where will you put your time in? And just be clear about that. Record it, post it, make sure everybody else knows as well. I was speaking with a colleague and we were talking about how colleges and universities do this all the time. Each professor has posted office hours. All students know what those office hours are, and they know that during the window of those hours, that's when they can communicate with the professor. Very similarly with our teams. So set some ground rules, but don't do it arbitrarily. Do it with the understanding and negotiate what those ground rules are across the team. Again, everybody wants to be successful here. Everybody wants to do good work, but there are a lot of other things happening right now that also require our attention and our time. We have to be sensitive to that, and we need to work with that. So those are our 5 tips. Here's my hope. My hope is that as a result of this crisis, and as a result of us getting really serious about being highly effective managers of remote teams, that we become better managers. We can actually develop a set of skills that we probably would not have developed had it not been for this crisis. I want to invite you to fully engage and embrace this opportunity. Learn some new skills. Be a better manager. Be an adaptive manager to what's happening right now. And as you do that, when things return back to normal, you're going to come back into whatever that normal is, a much more strong and a much more effective manager. Please let us know if we can help. If you have any questions, appreciate you listening. Thank you.